Hey guys, it's your host, Bailey Cartwright. Welcome to the Stronger Scars podcast, where I invite others to dive deep into the ups and downs of physical and mental scars. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this week's episode of the Stronger Scars podcast. I am here today with Maddie Campbell, and I'm super excited. She plays basketball at the University of Southern California, and I think we're in for a good injury story, guys. So, Maddie, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, yeah. So I'm Maddie Campbell. I'm a four-year senior at USC. Originally from Fresno, California. Played basketball my whole life, and my college story has not entirely gone according to my dreams and my plans. So I guess I met Bailey just trying to find some help and some, I guess, sense of community. And so, yeah, I just appreciate you having me on today. So thank you so much.
Of course, I'm so excited. And I'm kind of curious. I know you reached out to me on Instagram and you listened to Morgan's episode, which I think was my last episode. So you guys can go back and listen to that. But I'm just kind of curious, how did you even find it in the first place?
So it was a like long story short, basically, I was driving back to LA from Fresno. I just took a little weekend getaway from everything and I was kind of going through it. So I took a break from my music and just searched podcast. I literally searched career ending injury athlete.
No way.
And yeah, and a bunch came up and then I was kind of scrolling and then Stronger Scars kind of caught my attention. So I'm like, So I gave it a listen and I immediately fell in love with your show. And like I said about the sense of community, like it just made me feel heard.
Mhm.
Because like when you're talking about your story to people who don't fully understand, who haven't gone through a serious injury, it's hard for them to relate.
Mhm.
So in a sense, it feels like you're sometimes talking to a wall, just because a lack of understanding. And so I think this really helped me feel connected and feel heard and feel understood in a way.
Oh, well, that makes me so happy. Thank you for sharing that.
Of
And I
course.
think too, like one of the things that is like very important to me with Stronger Scars is like people have said like, oh, you need to get a big name athlete on. And yeah, that would be great for exposure. But I think part of what I like about having, us who weren't the star athletes because we got hurt, I
Yeah,
think it's nice because it is that like more sense of community. It's more relatable because they're not a professional athlete and like obviously they have their own story and that would be great too, but I don't know, I kind of like the union around like we're all just people who had a dream, had a desire, and things didn't go as planned.
absolutely. And I think emphasis on the we all have our own story, big name or not, I think everyone is a human being just trying to live their life and be happy. So I love what you do. And I think it's great to have people who, you know, didn't really have it pan out for them.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about you first. Kind of bring, obviously going to USC, any sport, huge deal. So walk us through like growing up, like how did you get to USC?
Yeah. So it actually starts. I grew up in a basketball household. My dad was my high school coach. So they told me stories of I would dribble before I would walk, just patting the ball, whatever. And then just played like literally every day. And I got my first offer my freshman year, before my freshman year of high school. And it just fueled me even more. So, you create these big visions for yourself, and I'm going to do this in senior year of high school, and freshman year of college, I'm going to do this. And by junior year, I want to be a captain, and like kind of all this stuff. Like, I want to break these records and just such big aspirations. And then my freshman year, first week of official practice, it was like early October, late September, and we're scrimmaging in practice, and I'm on a breakaway layup, and a teammate hits me kind of funky, and it just like my back just gave out. Like I already had bulging discs in high school, and so when I got hit in that moment, it just like was done for. I was almost paralyzed. I was down for about 15 minutes. And then I kind of knew in that moment that I would be like out for the season. So 3 months later, about 2 injections, epidurals, and PT and rest and this and that, whatever, later. I get surgery. It's a microdiscectomy for those who are familiar with back issues. And I'm out for 12 months. So from high school season to the next time I play a game is 18 months. And then I deal with a fractured tibia, a bone bruise, whatever. So I kind of played on that for a minute, but that was like pretty insignificant compared to my back. And then dealt with like a number of little bumps and bruises along the way, as like I feel like once you get your first serious injury, like it kind of never stops from there.
Yeah.
Um, and then junior year, it was December, and I just start feeling tingling and numbness down my legs, which is like a huge sign that like get an MRI on your back.
Mhm.
And so basically they said that my bulging discs and herniated whatever was back, but I also had like stenosis and 2 torn discs and degenerative discs. So basically like I couldn't play. It was either they heal
Right.
on their own or I can't play. So nobody wanted to really like do anything because basically no surgery was like the perfect cure. Then finally, Dr. Rasuli out of LA, not USC doctor, so that's why it was so difficult to like find the answer.
Mhm.
He told me he could do a 2 level artificial disc replacement. Told me he could get me out on the court. Um, Basically, I got the surgery, and then now I'm just feeling really good. People told me like I wouldn't be cleared. People told me this would be done, but I'm like, no, I'm gonna fight back. Like, why can't I come back? Like, why
Right.
can't that be me? Why can't I have a warrior story and just beat the odds, whatever? And basically now I'm kind of realizing that surgery was the best decision I've ever made for myself. I'm pain free. Physical therapy is going great. I'm about 5 months out of surgery, and I'm kind of at a point in my life where I don't know if I'm going to continue playing basketball just because of all the trauma my body has gone through. But yeah, I guess that was a very long winded story of my journey through college and college injuries and just finding my identity as a person away from my sport. So it's been difficult, but I'm
Mhm.
currently coming to terms with a lot of things.
Yeah. So let's kind of backtrack. Let's talk about obviously a very unique injury. The
Yeah,
back, it's not something that the average soccer player, basketball player, anyone's going through.
yeah.
So, what was like the medical diagnoses, I guess?
In the recent one,
Like the one where you said your teammate hit you and then you just like knew.
okay, so they said I had 1 herniated disc and 1 bulging
Mhm.
disc below it, but the herniated disc, the average size of a herniation is 3 millimeters, and mine was 8. So that kind of puts into perspective how massive it
Yeah.
was, and it was scary. I was kind of navigating it on my own just because I live away from home, not too
Mhm.
far, but I don't live with my family, and I just kind of felt isolated at college. And so, yeah, it was even more difficult just trying to deal with it on my own. And I feel like I've definitely matured through this process.
Mhm.
But yeah, it was difficult
Yeah.
to come to terms with that, especially.
Well, I think too, like that's again like going back to it's not a normal sports injury. That's like a life, like that's a life injury. That's something that could not only affect your ability to play sport, but like
Yeah,
your everyday. So I'm sure that had to be terrifying.
yeah, absolutely. And then when it came back in practice last year, I was like scared out of my mind. I kind of knew it was back, like for sure, even before I got the imaging done. And then
Mhm.
I was in a drill and my legs just went numb, like a light switch just turned off, like boom, numb, can't feel my legs. And that's when I
Yeah.
knew, like, I'm probably done. And it's sad knowing that you might not play again, probably won't play again.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I'm so, so, so thankful because nobody wanted to cut into me again. So
Right.
yeah, I'm thankful. And
Yeah.
again, I feel so great. I am working on my mental health, which is a process. But yeah, I'm just I'm growing. It's a
Mhm.
process.
It is. And I think that's one of the things that, me being someone who's gone through injuries, I understand that. I understand it's a process for you. And like, I
Yeah.
understand that you're probably not where your end goal is. But
Mhm.
I think that sometimes what I always struggle with, that a lot of people didn't understand that it was a process and they thought I should immediately be at this end point. And it's just, it takes time and it takes trial. It's a lot of things that go into building up to what you want to be and how you want to get there. And I think understanding and like loving that process in a way is so important.
I agree. Are you still playing or are you retired?
So,
Okay.
um, I don't know if I have eligibility left. I'm waiting to hear.
Okay.
And I had like my last game. I'm gonna do a whole episode on this just because like this is
Yeah.
like it's important, but
Cool.
I had my last game and like I had in my mind it was my last game and I was healthy and that was kind of good enough for me to like end being healthy.
Right.
Um so I don't know, like I don't know if I want to put myself out there again and like risk getting hurt again, like risk something happening when like I did get to end peacefully.
Right. Yeah, I definitely hear you. I was literally talking to my boyfriend about this, about who does get closure in their sport, like you end well and then you want to keep going. Or I guess 99% of athletes end on a, I wouldn't say bad or negative, but like just a not
Mhm.
ideal note. Like either they lost or they got hurt. And
Yep.
so that's kind of what I'm dealing with is, do I get closure or do I just kind of walk away? Or similar to you, like, do I get closure?
Mm-hmm.
Like what is best for my own situation? And so that's what I'm currently figuring out. And it's a whirlwind of emotions that I don't really know who in my close circle fully relates to, which is difficult. But I
Right.
know that I have such a great support system who's trying, and that's all I can ask for.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's kind of talk about this because I feel like this is something that I personally relate to, and I think others will,
Mhm.
is that process of making the decision. Like, what are the things, like, what are some pros? What are some cons that you're kind of working through right now?
Like personally,
Yeah, like just like why would you want to keep trying to play and like why would you not want to play anymore?
um, okay. I would say one of the biggest ones is in college, I never fully got to have fun with it. I never fully got to play without worrying
Yeah.
about, oh, I feel like I deserve this. I feel like I've been shooting the crap out of the ball this week. I feel like, I deserve this. And I never fully got a chance to
Yeah.
get into that playing chart just because, like, I've been injured and I've been on injury management plan. So, like, you'll practice and then sit out and practice
Gotcha,
and
gotcha,
sit out.
gotcha,
So,
gotcha.
like pain management plan.
Gotcha.
So like you can play 10 minutes a game or you can do
Right.
this. I was on that like every single time if I even got in at all. So like it was just so difficult because I missed so much to have to work myself back every time. So I guess a pro is like I would have the chance to do that.
Yeah.
But a con is I haven't been at 100% in 4 years. So doing that, it wouldn't be impossible, but it would be pretty close to,
Hard.
yeah. Um, I think another pro would be that I could possibly get the closure, but another con is I probably won't because there's a high chance of getting injured. There's a high chance of, more people coming in and fresh new bodies taking your spot. And that's just the reality of college
Mm-hmm.
sports. Um, but that also comes with maturity of knowing that I had a hell of a high school career and I'm
Mm-hmm.
very proud of that. But I think at some point it's just planting your flag in that success and moving on with your life. And that's not everybody's story, but for people like us, like that
Mm-hmm.
is something to definitely consider and definitely think about.
I love that you brought up high school. I was talking to my
Yeah.
husband the other day and I was like, you know what? Like college did not go as planned. But let me tell you, I am proud of what I did in high school and that
Yeah.
has to count for something.
Yeah. And it sounds so like, I don't know, just I'm not proud to say that, oh, I look at my glory days as my high school days, but like it's so true. It's
Mm-hmm.
so true. And some people didn't go to college and they still say, oh yeah, I was good in high school. I don't want to sound like somebody who is
Right.
like a wannabe. No disrespect, but like we should be proud of where we made it to.
Right.
And it's just like it stinks, but
Mm-hmm.
you just have to know, you just have to have conviction within yourself, to just refuse the need for anybody else's approval but yours, and just know that
Mm-hmm.
you did the best you could. So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I've been reminding myself about.
Yeah, and I think like it's so easy for somebody else to say like this is how it should have went, this is how you should have acted.
Right.
But like again, going back to like you don't understand it until you go through it. Like trust
Absolutely.
me, like I'm sure you can relate to me and how I was feeling. I'm sure I can relate to you and how you were feeling. Like there are days where you just like you don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to do anything because things didn't go to this plan.
Yeah.
And I want to talk a little bit about the maturity thing because I can tell you're very mature and
Thank you.
I do. I simply think that like me growing up and like me maturing as well, 1000% is because of my injury and because it was tough and I had to deal with it. So kind of like where does that come from for you?
I would say even not so much injury, but just life in general. Like I've gone through a lot, and I'm sure you have, I'm sure like everybody else has, but I believe that trauma and pain can change a person. There were times where I had to be the, caretaker of the family, like make dinner, take the kids to school, um, just make sure lights are out by 11, things like that. And
Mhm.
so I guess back to an injury standpoint, now I'm having to take a step back and kind of be the mom of the team in a way. And that's been my role for a couple of years. So I've had to step into a new role of responsibility, as well as, like you said, there's days when you don't want to get out of bed. There's days
Mhm.
where you have tears streaming down your face, but you got to pull it together. There's days where you don't feel like eating, or you simply feel like eating everything.
Yeah.
Like literally I could go on. Um, but back to the maturity, like you have to pull yourself together because you have stuff to take care of. You have a whole life that you need to do. And it's hard, but I believe through the pain and through whatever you're going through, just show up every day and you are growing and you are healing, and
Mhm.
it's not an overnight process, and you'll get there. And through that, like I've healed a lot, and like I always say, I'm not the person I was in high school. I'm not the person I was even last year. And so
Mhm.
I'm proud of my growth. Um, and yeah, I wouldn't change any of my life experiences or
Mhm.
whatever if I like was given the chance. I wouldn't, because
Mhm.
that's why I am who I am.
That's who you are. That's why you
Yeah,
are who you are.
exactly. And I'm sure you definitely relate. Like it's a struggle, and in the moment
Mhm.
it hurts, but looking back, like you're thankful for those
Mhm.
experiences.
I do wish like if I don't I would never change my injury like you said.
Yeah.
Um but I do wish I could have told myself a few years ago like that it is a process and that it's going to be okay because I'm sure you know that feeling where it just seems like the world's going to end.
Yeah, absolutely. And like sometimes you're caught thinking, "Oh, why am I the only one who has to go through this? Why this? Why that?"
Mhm.
And I don't know, like what were things that you would tell yourself to kind of just combat those thoughts?
I think like my one friend, long story short, I've told this story before, but there's my one friend told me the story about her friend who went on this mission trip and someone in this country that she was doing her mission trip in was telling her a story about how we're, religious or not, like I'm religious and this was the perspective I have, but like God hands people hard things who he knows can handle them.
I 100% agree.
And that just has resonated with me so much. And so when I would go through a hard day, I would just be like, you know what? I was handed this challenge because I'm strong enough. The person who beside me who has it easy isn't strong enough to go through this hard crap. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm given it. And that's a compliment to me.
Yeah. No, I tell myself that all the time. I also have the scripture tattooed, Romans 8:18. The struggles you are enduring do not compare to the joys that are coming. And so those two things just keep me going. Like
Mhm.
I can't help but just imagine the future I'm going to have
Right.
and just be excited about that. So just the light at the end of the tunnel just gives me hope and
Mhm.
like daily joy in what I'm
Right.
currently struggling with. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and it really resonated with me when you said earlier, you said, how does any athlete really get closure?
Yeah.
And I just think like, I tried to tell myself, like, let's say like my sophomore year when I was just really in the middle of the injuries, like I was saying to myself, okay, great. So soccer in college lasts 4 years. And then obviously now my professional aspirations are down the drain. So it's going to be over either way. So why not it be something that I can do something with in my life? I can learn from, like, I can have this story. I didn't, I wasn't healthy and played 30 minutes a game. So what? Like, there's more to life. And I had to really pound that in my head.
Yeah. No, and something that I'm learning currently is you don't have to like validate your self-worth based on your athletic accomplishments or academic or social or whatever it is, business, job, whatever. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
to validate your own self-worth based off of what you accomplish. And I tell that to anybody who's having an off game, an off
Mm-hmm.
year, an injured year, like what have you. But I think that is something that every athlete should hear and try to instill in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I'm struggling with is in the past, this year, I am like, this is probably one of the best years in college thus far. Our season's just getting started. We're 3-0 and it's going well. But on a social standpoint, I would say this is the year that I feel the most connected. One, I'm putting myself out there more, but two, my teammates are like recognizing me and recognizing what got taken from me that they get to experience every day. Part of that is from me vocalizing that, but I don't know. I just feel like my teammates have such big hearts, and my teammates in the past were amazing, but this year they really hear my pain and
Mm-hmm.
they see me doing PT every day. They see me on the sideline in practice, and it's not fun, but I appreciate how they're there for me and how they check in on me. And this year they even made me like the honorary handshake person,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
out
yeah.
the starting lineup. So it's a little fun thing to help me stay engaged and stay motivated on game days because it can be depressing when you feel
Mm-hmm.
like you have no role and you feel like you have no importance to the team because I've been on both ends of it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's definitely off to a good start this year.
I think I haven't talked about the whole teammate thing in a few episodes, but when I first started doing this, like that was one of the things I touched on so much because
Yeah,
I don't think I had the greatest experience with that. But if you're the teammate of somebody who's going through an injury, you honestly can make or break their experience. Like I truly mean that because the person going through the injury, all they have is you guys. They have their
yeah,
teammates. You're around them for like 3 hours a day. Like it is
too
so
much.
important. It is so important to include them and to like literally go out of your way. Like take 5 minutes out of your day to just include them and make them feel like they belong.
Yeah, and they do such a good job. Like in our group chat, we're active daily. They're saying, "Hey, do you want to go get dinner? Hey, let's go get coffee. Hey, let's hang out tonight and watch a movie." And in the past, I haven't had that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so refreshing to know that on a simple level that people want to hang out with me and
Yeah.
people still appreciate me as a human. And with or without your sport, like you still hold weight, and I couldn't ask for anything more. Like it
Mm-hmm.
means the world. And my friend group is simply what's keeping me here. And I tell them
Mm-hmm.
that like every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something that was very underrated before I came to college because hello, like friends in high school,
It's
I just
different.
yeah, it's different. And in college you come from different backgrounds, different states, different ways of life. And
Mm-hmm.
to have such a solid group is just a blessing.
So you mentioned that you like you vocalized with them that you were struggling and that like that's how you were feeling. I think that's a barrier that a lot of people run into when trying to express their feelings because they don't feel comfortable or whatever it might be. So
Mhm.
what did that kind of look like for you? How did you go about, vocalizing your pain?
Um, I think I had to take it in baby steps. You know, you feed them a little bit, they feed you a little
Mm-hmm.
bit, you give them a little bit more insight on your life, they give you a little bit more. And they don't know everything about me, I don't know everything about them, but there's just this mutual trust of support of, hey, I'm here for you. Hey, if you need me, call me. And in the past, I think I've been used to like giving more than I've received. So it made me more closed off. And this is just on a personal level, but
Mhm.
it made me more closed off. So this year, I'm really trying to go out of my way and give whatever I got and make the most of my
Mhm.
senior year and just go out with a bang. And my friends are matching that. And again, just take it with baby steps. And it's hard. It's really, really,
Mhm.
really hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but yeah, whenever I feel like talking about it, I say, hey, this is like literally just word vomit. Hey, this happened.
Yeah.
This happened. Um, but yeah, or hey, today I'm sad. And then they'll
Mhm.
give me a hug. Like they've learned to know what I need. Like it's just simple things that they
Mhm.
put in the time to get to know me and
Mhm.
they put in the time to listen and whatever
Yeah.
it's good.
No, I think the baby steps thing is a really good piece of advice because it
Yeah,
doesn't have to be an overnight, like you become best friends with everyone and you tell them their life
right.
story.
Right. I agree. It's definitely something you have to take slow.
Mhm. This is a question I ask a lot of people who I've had on here who are kind of in the same role as you. Like they're not playing, they're hurt, and they kind of have this mom role on the team.
Hmm.
And that was something I avoided at all costs because I was pissed. I was
Yeah.
mad that I wasn't playing.
Yeah.
I had a really poor attitude. Um, so how do you do it? How do you have this mentality of like, I'm not the one out there, but I'm gonna be the best damn teammate to the people who are?
I think it's like a grieving process because last year my attitude kind of stunk. And
Mm-hmm.
freshman year, I was just too shy to understand what was going on. I was too naive, I was too
Right.
fresh, too new. So this year, being a senior, and I have two other seniors with me who've been with me since freshman year. And there's a level of comfortability to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess a new level of confidence. And so once I took time to grieve, I guess, the loss of my athlete identity and to just, in a kind of dramatic explanation, like just mourn that person and realize that that may not be who I am anymore, but also appreciate who you are and what you have to offer. I just kind of grew into that role of I would be wasting my time and doing myself a disservice if I spent my time being sad. And
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of what got me through it. It was a little bit of a tough love moment for a couple months, but you heal and you get past it. And once you get to where you want to be, or at least in the right direction, then it gets easier. It does.
Mm-hmm. I love what you said about like you found confidence in it. I
Yeah.
think like that I know like reflecting on my own experience, I would show up to practice and I felt out of place because I wasn't confident in like my injury. I wasn't confident in who I am. I just was like, if I'm not playing, if I'm not the star player, then I don't belong. I don't belong here.
Yeah.
So
I
I think
think
that's really interesting that like you have to own it. You have to own what happened to you and be confident to be able to go in these situations, be like, I belong here.
you do. And I think something I literally talked to my therapist this morning about was I find that sometimes I literally gaslight myself. I'm like,
Mhm.
yeah, I had back surgery, my second one, but it's okay. It's fine. It's nothing big. Hey, so I'm kind of sad. I last week was going through it, but it's fine. It's okay.
Mhm.
And I'm starting to be like, okay, no, it might not be okay, but that's fine. You're
Mhm.
literally going through a traumatic life experience. And you don't have to say it's okay. It doesn't have to be okay. But
Mhm.
just like through that, just know that you'll be okay. But I literally feel like so many athletes gaslight themselves, and I don't even really like that term.
Mhm. I
But
know what you mean.
yeah, like it doesn't have to be fine. Like, oh, I just tore my ACL, but it's fine.
It's
No,
not
it's not
fine.
fine. It's not. Or like, hey, I just broke my foot, but it's cool. I'll be back. No, it doesn't have to be okay. And I think that's what
Oh.
so many athletes need to hear. Like, you don't have to be the toughest, biggest, fastest healing person out there. Like, it's fine to go through this. It's normal. It is a normal thing for athletes to get injured, and pain is okay. It is.
I'm laughing internally because so I, my husband and I,
Mhm.
if we get in like a little bicker, I hope he's not mad at me saying this, but I am so formulated and I'll just say it's fine. Like he knows I'm still mad, but I
Yeah,
just say it's fine. And he
me
gets so
too.
mad. Literally last night he was like, "Can you please stop saying it's fine when I know it's not fine?"
My boyfriend does the same thing. He's like, you don't have to do that. I know you're still mad. Like it's
So
like
now, like now that you brought that up, I'm like, this is making sense. This is
yeah,
probably why I do it, because for years of my life, I thought I had to like be okay with everything crappy
yeah,
happening in my life. So I just said it's fine.
yeah. It doesn't have to be fun.
It doesn't have to be fine. Um,
That's
okay,
funny.
I want to talk about attitude. Because again, I know I mentioned this. I'm sure people who know me, I struggled very hard with this until probably my senior year. I finally grew up with that in that aspect.
Mhm.
Um, what advice do you have for someone who's just like in the dumps having a crappy attitude? And that's okay. Like, let's acknowledge it's okay to have a bad attitude because like it's
Yeah.
natural.
Are you talking about from an injured
Mm-hmm.
standpoint or just athletes in general? Or like,
Both. You can mix it in.
okay, I would say find the root of the attitude, like the reason for why you might be a little pissed off or a little bit on edge that day or week or month.
Mm-hmm.
Find the root of it and maybe think of one or two things you've been doing differently since you've had an attitude. Like, for example, I would not want to get out of bed at all. Like, I would just be mad at the world every single day I had to wake up and tend to my responsibilities. Um, Example number two, I would be mad when I would have to come in for PT or I would have to answer my phone or I would have to whatever. Example number three, I would be upset when I had to cheer every day in practice when I would get nothing in return. You know, like it's just those selfish examples. Um, and it's different for everybody. But my advice would be to try to combat those things that you notice you're doing differently. If you're snapping back more at somebody, if you're just on edge, just being not yourself, try to get back to yourself, remind yourself it's okay. But it's not okay to lash out on other people. It's not okay to take your anger out on people. And once I learned that, I just became a much more pleasant person and a more fun person to be around. Um, and yeah, like happiness is contagious. So just try to work on yourself. Literally, try to get rid of your toxic traits, aka like attitude or whatever it is. I guess that's my advice is just find the root of the attitude and tackle it.
Yeah. And I think like I know what I did, and I think a lot of injured athletes do is the woe is me, like why me?
Yeah.
And it's a very tough thing to get out of, but I
It's
know for it sounds like you and myself, once I got out of that, I was just like I was happier. I know people around me were happier, but I was happier.
exactly. And like during practice, it's hard to go there every day and just sit and bring that positive energy every day. So I've started distracting myself. I'm doing clock now. I'm keeping my mind busy.
Mhm.
I'm not allowing myself to feel certain things. And in that, I've found more happiness because I'm literally like too busy to even worry about how I'm feeling. And I know my teammates appreciate that. My coaches appreciate that just because I'm more present mentally every day in practice. And it's a little thing like clock, like, okay, but it's something that I would always do at my dad's practices. And so, like when I was little. And so it's just kind
Mhm.
of something that brings me back. And it's like an anger, or not an anger, an anchor. Like,
Mhm.
if that makes sense, it's just
Mhm.
an anchor that kind of grounds me. And I don't know, it might sound silly to some people, but it's what works for me.
Mhm. No, I think that's yeah, that's really great. So what is next? I know you have this big decision weighing
Yeah.
on you. Um, but like how are you now taking day by day? Like obviously you guys just started your season.
Mhm.
I know that's tough. So like how are you kind of like navigating it now and like leading up to this big decision? And when do you have to like kind of make your decision?
So my decision on athletic or like medical disqualification, medical retirement, I would say there's no like deadline. I don't even know if I have to make one. Um, it's very up in the air just because I don't know what my future holds. Who knows? I could be feeling great a year from now and decide to come back. I literally am keeping all my options open, but if I choose to go that route, I'm just exploring my options. I'm seeing if I can still be a part of the team. I
Mhm.
will only choose that route if I can still travel, go to practices, walk on senior night, walk on athlete graduation, like do all the things that I do now.
Deserve.
But I think the medical disqualification would give me closure on the sport. There goes that closure word we said earlier. But I think on a personal level, that would give me the closure on the sport to then like fully walk away and fully heal and just come to terms with it even more.
Mhm.
Um, but I don't know. I see something happening in at least a month, but no sooner than that. So we'll see what happens. But again, I'm dedicating this year to being such a good teammate that nothing else matters. Um, and yeah, that's what's really keeping me going. But
Mhm.
it's difficult not knowing what lies ahead and just kind of the gray area and whatever. But
Yeah.
again, very special situation to be in.
I think too, like my dad always said, like, you don't want to look back and regret stuff. Like, you don't want to look
Right.
back and wish you did more. You don't want to look back and wish that you gave it that extra 10%. And I
Yeah.
think with injuries, that becomes a special case because obviously you can't. But then you have to make up for it with those things that you can do, like being a good teammate, just being a good person, like going the extra mile for people who may be going through something similar as you. So I think that you'll look back and still be happy with what you've done if you can just
Right.
do those other things to make up for the playing.
Right. And you said something earlier about like people always try to give their little 2 cents or their
Mhm.
advice. And I think what's hard for me in this position is trying to get other people to understand I didn't ask to be in this position. You didn't ask to get injured. He or she did not ask to tear this or break this or get this surgery. We didn't ask for this injured life per
Mhm.
se. And therefore, it is up to us to talk to our support system, get the help we need, and from there, just make the best decision that we can that will best suit us. And I guess, long story short, that's what I'm trying to do right now. And I'm just trying to make the best decision for myself and my future. But again, it sucks. I didn't ask to be here. I didn't ask to be injured all 4 years. So
It's
I guess
tough.
that's where I'm at right now.
Mhm. You know, I was kind of thinking about my own decision with trying to play and whatever. And I was like,
Yeah.
when like you're picking a restaurant and your husband, boyfriend, they're like, oh, like, do you want to go here or here? And if they say one and you're disappointed, then you wanted the other one.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm trying to relate it.
That is so funny because I am the most indecisive person ever. So anyone who
Just
knows me knows that I am the worst person to ask where to eat. So yeah, basically I understand 100%.
so a big life decision probably isn't going to be the easiest.
Not the easiest, but we're making our way.
Is there anything you want to talk about or any questions or anything you have?
No, I would just basically drop a little nugget on anybody listening, old, young, injured, not, athlete or not. Um, Figure out who you are, what your identity is. And if you're an athlete, realize that you are so much more outside of your sport and take time to build that identity. Hang out with your friends, build different hobbies, build different preferences in life. And you do not need anyone else's approval to have self worth. So that's what I'm learning. And I just wanted to give that to you guys. So yeah,
Preach it. I have comments. See, this is what's so bad. I could just go on forever. Um,
literally.
so how do you think this is something I've thought a lot about as well? Is like, at least in my experience, I feel like a lot of times, let's say mental health or like athlete identity, the people above, the head honchos, they
Mhm.
say, yes, let's do this. Let's do this. This is a great idea. But I feel like nothing ever is effective and gets done. So
Yeah.
how do you think we can actually implement these things into athletic departments? Like actually make people realize these ideas and like actually help mental health. Like I know we're going in the right direction, but more can be done.
Yeah.
So like how can we actually help people realize those things?
I would say USC has one of the best mental health service programs like across the country. And so I'm thankful to be somewhere where they take it seriously.
Mhm.
I know from an injured athlete standpoint, we have this group called Rise, where it's like recovering injuries, something like serious or like season ending, something serious ending injuries. Like
That's so
it's
cool.
called Rise. And so I'm currently in it right now for the third time. But basically, yeah, it's just a community where athletes come in, talk about their injury. It's like AA,
That's
but
so
for
cool.
yeah, it's like AA for injured athletes. So it's
No
really
way.
cool. It kind of feels in the moment like, okay, here we go again. Like, hi, I'm Maddie.
Yeah.
Hi, Maddie. Like, it's very cheesy, but once I realized like you get out what you put in. Like this year is the best year that I'm receiving stuff from it. Because
Mhm.
I'm just being vulnerable and I'm putting a lot in, so I'm getting a lot out. But I guess I would push for more schools to have that.
Yeah.
But I would also push for individuals to take time to ask people how they're doing.
Mhm.
It doesn't need to be a big program, but just people say mental health matters. Okay, well, when was the last time you asked your friend how they're doing? When was the
Yep.
last time you asked them to do one of their favorite things, whether it's go get their nails done, go to a picnic, go paint, go to the beach, go do something that you know that they love. And I think the world would be a better place by simply caring about one another. Um,
Mhm.
and I know it's hard when we're all caught up in our daily lives and we have three classes and meetings and practice and film and lift and physical therapy and whatever it is, and you're supposed to have a social life on top of that, like that's hard. But just a simple, hey, how are you doing? A hug, a text like, hey, I see you. I hope you're having a great day. I think the world would be a much better place.
Yeah. I totally agree.
Yeah.
I years like I'm how many years like out of it and there's specific moments I literally remember when people would ask me like how are you doing but like how are you actually doing, not two
Yeah.
word answer I'm good, like how are you actually doing, like I vividly remember those moments.
Right. And it's special. And I
Mhm.
have a few friends who, when they ask, I'm like, actually, I'm not doing too hot today.
Yep.
And they listen. And other people, it's like, oh, I'm good. Like you just know who you can talk to. And those people hold a lot of weight in my life. So
Mhm.
back to the friends. I appreciate y'all. But I think
Yeah,
it's
and
very important.
my closing thought is just obviously this is an injured podcast and we barely talked about your injury because
Mhm.
look at all these other things that go into it. Look at all the lessons learned. Look at all the things that we can chat about that are just like because of your injury. Doors
Absolutely.
opened because of your injury. So I thought that's important to know because you talked about your injuries for like maybe 2 minutes,
Yeah.
but we've recorded for 50 minutes. So I think
Right.
it's just kind of crazy how like the
It's great.
doors do open.
Yeah. And I think if we were to like record a show a year ago or even like 6 months ago, I would have probably talked so much about the physical aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm in a phase of my life which you can probably relate to of this is about my mental and this is about my spiritual and this is about my emotional well-being. Um, and yeah, I think it's so much more than just physical.
This was so good. Like seriously, like I'm so happy that you walked into my life. Like I feel like we're gonna be friends now.
No, literally, please. Thank you so much for having me on. It was
No.
just such a privilege. And thank you for allowing me to tell my story and just get my words out there.
Mhm. Well, I'm excited personally to see where life takes you, what you decide. Like I hope you know that like me, you've never met me before, like I'm backing you. I hope a new support system for you and
Oh,
like just know whatever you do decide, like do what's best for you and be proud of what you decide, like own it.
you too.
Thanks. I know I'm like talking like I've gone through this before, but
Right. No, but I think it's important to, make friends with people who are going through similar situations.
Mhm.
So thank you so much. And
You're
I
welcome.
will definitely be keeping in touch with you.